Just as the prosecutor started speaking, a small yet clear voice suddenly pierced through the tense silence of the courtroom. "I want to live with Daddy." The entire room froze. All eyes immediately turned toward the back, where a young girl stood. Her innocence and bravery stood in stark contrast to the heavy legal battle that determined her future. Inside a modern courthouse, with its towering ceilings and polished wooden floors, a custody trial had captured everyone's attention. The case revolved around David Hayes, a weary but devoted father, fighting for the right to raise his daughter, Layla. His ex-wife's attorney had painted him as an unfit parent, challenging his ability to provide for her. The courtroom was filled with spectators who believed the case would be determined solely by legal arguments and cold, hard facts. Yet, none of them were prepared for what was about to unfold. Seated at his table, David sat quietly, his face marked with exhaustion and worry. His daughter meant everything to him. She was the light of his life. Every single day, he worked tirelessly to provide for her, to protect her, to be there whenever she needed him most. Yet, in that very moment, the legal system had reduced his love and devotion to nothing more than a battle of words. The courtroom, bound by strict procedures and a formal atmosphere, seemed unwilling to acknowledge the emotions at the heart of the case. Presiding over the trial was Judge Andrew Miller, a stern man known for his no-nonsense approach. Having handled countless custody disputes, he was accustomed to making decisions based purely on legal evidence. His eyes remained fixed on the documents before him, his face revealing little emotion. Meanwhile, the ex-wife's attorney, sharp and confident, argued that David's past mistakes and lifestyle made him unsuitable to care for Layla. For hours, the room was filled with complex legal discussions. Witnesses testified, evidence was meticulously presented, and David's defense, though heartfelt, struggled against the opposition's calculated arguments. While David's side spoke of his love and dedication as a father, the opposition painted him as a man who had failed to provide the stability Layla needed. Tension hung heavy in the air, as many believed the case would be decided purely by professionals who had little regard for the true emotions of the child caught in the middle. Then, just as the prosecutor prepared to lay out the so-called facts of the case, a small but firm voice shattered the monotony. Layla, who had been sitting quietly beside her father, suddenly stood up. Her voice trembled slightly, but her words were clear. "I want to live with Daddy." In an instant, the courtroom fell into a stunned silence. Every single pair of eyes turned toward her, from the judge on the bench to the attorneys on either side. The simple yet powerful words of a 10-year-old girl had disrupted the entire legal process. Layla's face was solemn, her eyes reflecting both sadness and determination. Though she didn't fully understand the legal complexities being argued over her future, she knew one thing for certain: her heart belonged with her father. She loved both parents, but her happiest memories were wrapped in the warmth of David's hugs, his gentle laughter, and the safety she felt whenever he held her hand. The once impersonal courtroom, dominated by cold legal terms and rigid arguments, suddenly transformed into a space filled with real human emotion. Judge Miller's expression shifted, surprise flickering across his otherwise stern face. Never had he expected a child to speak up so boldly. For a brief moment, his usually unreadable features softened, as he was reminded that this case wasn't just another legal dispute, it was about a child's future. The weight of Layla's words settled over the room like a heavy fog. The ex-wife's attorney, who had built his argument on legal technicalities, now faced a challenge he couldn't simply dismiss: the voice of a child. The courtroom's atmosphere changed from cold legal formality to raw, undeniable emotion. Even the judge couldn't ignore what had just happened. He had spent years making decisions based on legal codes, but in that moment, he was reminded that the courtroom wasn't just about laws. It was about real lives, real families. David felt a surge of hope as he looked at his daughter, her courage giving him the strength he had almost lost. For so long, he had fought against a system that seemed designed to reduce love to a series of legal arguments. But now, her simple declaration had cut through all the legal complexities and brought forth the one thing that truly mattered: the bond between a father and his child. Judge Miller took a deep, measured breath. His gaze slowly moved across the room as the tension began to shift into something else: understanding. In that silence, the real cost of the battle became painfully clear. The judge understood that while legal arguments were necessary, they weren't the only thing that mattered in determining Layla's future. Her voice, honest, unfiltered, full of truth, carried undeniable weight. He allowed Layla to speak further, listening carefully as she shared, in simple words, how much she cherished the time spent with her father, how much she missed his presence when they were apart. The impact was immediate. The rigid courtroom, once governed by impersonal rules, had become a space of undeniable truth. What had started as a battle of legal technicalities had transformed into something far more profound: a heartfelt plea from a child. The ex-wife's attorney struggled to regain his footing, while even the judge seemed visibly moved. The jury, if there had been one, the lawyers, the spectators, all sat with open hearts, listening. What once seemed destined to be settled by cold facts was now influenced by the genuine emotions of a small girl who had found her voice. After careful deliberation, Judge Miller delivered his verdict. He ruled in favor of David Hayes, granting him full custody of Layla. His reasoning? The best interests of the child must always come first. And Layla's heartfelt wish to live with her father, coupled with the undeniable evidence of his care and devotion, outweighed the opposition's legal arguments. The decision was met with a mix of applause and tears. For David, it was a long-awaited victory, a moment that proved his love and dedication as a father. Outside the courthouse, news of the case spread rapidly. Headlines read, "Child's voice wins custody battle," and "Young hero brings hope to families." The story touched the hearts of many, reminding people that sometimes the legal system does listen to the truth behind the law. Layla's brave words became a symbol of the power of honesty, the importance of listening to children, and the undeniable strength of love. In the weeks following the trial, discussions arose about family law, the rights of children, and the need for more compassionate courtroom decisions. Layla's story was shared in schools, community meetings, and legal workshops, proving that even the smallest voice can make the biggest impact. David, now an advocate for family unity, spoke out about his experience, encouraging parents to listen to their children and fight for their rights. His story, once a painful legal battle, had transformed into a beacon of hope. Layla, now known for her bravery, grew into a confident young woman. She dedicated herself to helping other children find their voices, working with local organizations to ensure no child was ever overlooked. Judge Miller, too, was forever changed. The once unyielding judge began to see his role differently, not just as an enforcer of law, but as a guardian of the people it affected. And so, the story of a young girl who dared to speak in a courtroom full of adults became a powerful reminder. Justice isn't just about laws and arguments. It's about the lives that are forever changed by them. Because in the end, even the smallest voice can change the course of a lifetime.